Back just past 10:15 here in the Live Impact studio. I've been mentioning that Sarah Stevenson Forum with District 6. We are going to get back to that. I do want to mention that around 10:30 we are expecting Governor McMaster out of South Carolina to give an update on the loss of SNAP benefits in the month of November. So once we get that live feed up, we're definitely going to go out there because that is really, really important for a lot of families. So know that that is coming up, and when we get it, we will go to it. But for now, back to District 6. What's really important here is that this is a race between a Democrat, Kimberly Owens, and Republican Krista Bokhari. Krista Bokhari, though, did not show up. So right now we're just listening to Kimberly Owens, but definitely notable that Krista Bokhari did not appear for what's really a historic ongoing forum that most candidates do show up to. So here's that.
Make resources available for people who want to age in place and who need some assistance with taxes. I know that there are efforts in place to help them. Luana Mayfield has spoken so eloquently about some of the programs that she's put forward to help people repair their aging homes. Truth be told, what I'm seeing in my own neighborhood in Montebello Crossing is that these homes are being ripped down. They're tearing them down. I had a house look just like mine, a $3.8 million house went up right next to it. So I hear that, I know that that is happening. The argument is that developers won't build them if people won't buy them. Again, harkening back to what Luana has said, the education of a community, if they do have a homeowners association, helping them know how to enforce their covenants so that they are able to keep out certain sizes of homes or certain dwelling unit styles, or just really helping them keep the character of their neighborhood. But it is a problem. We have a lot of money coming in here, and those folks do seem to want to buy big houses. And that's capitalism. That's how that's working. And so I don't have a great answer other than hoping to connect people with the resources that keep people able to pay their taxes, keep people able to repair their homes. And those are all things that I know that the city is doing to try to alleviate that stress.
Jackie.
Hello, Kim.
Hello.
I was looking at the numbers that had come into the Board of Elections as of this morning. And in your area, more than 2,500 folk have voted at South Park, which is almost 10 times some of the other primary sites. I just mentioned that, but I wanted to know, tell us about your early years to get you to the thinking that you have today.
So I'm originally from Illinois. I'm the first generation in my family to graduate from college. My dad worked in a steel mill and my mom worked in retail. My grandfather worked in a steel mill, and his dad before him was a failed entrepreneur and a failed farmer as well. I am really such a beneficiary of upward mobility that my kids don't necessarily see anymore. I mention them again because they are my why, because so much of what I saw when I moved here in 1994, when I moved here in 1994, I made $57,000. I was a graduate of law school. I was able with that $57,000 to get my own apartment, to have a car, to have car insurance, to have health insurance, to service debt on my student loans, because I had gone to Northwestern University and then to Chapel Hill for law school, had a lot of student loans. I was able to do all of that on that income, and Charlotte just seemed like this magical place where anything could happen and I could be a success. I struggled at first in my first couple of law firms because there was a lot of generational wealth. And not coming from that, I didn't feel like I belonged. And so, the first few years here, I did feel a bit like an outsider. But as time evolved and opportunities evolved and I progressed through my law firms and then into in-house, I've been able to have these children who, all I thought I had to do was send them to college and they'd be set, and now they're back and they're not thriving, they're not launching, they're not experiencing those opportunities. One of my sons makes literally $3,000 more a month than I did when I moved here in 1994. A year, when I moved here in 1994. So he's in his high school bedroom and he's got a good job, but it is just not enough. So our wealth our wealth disparity and our wage gaps have really colored my impressions of what opportunities are available to our young kids when they try to move back to Charlotte now. But the Charlotte, for me, it felt magical. You know, it was the biggest city I'd ever lived in. It still is. It just had such potential. And I want to see that again. I want to experience that through their eyes again. But I thank you for the question. But yeah, I grew up, I'm just a Midwestern girl. I've lived here, moved here in 91, and then to Charlotte in 94.
I have a question. My question is, as you have been around as a candidate, and you've been around the other candidate that's running against you in District 6, what have you picked up from the conversations or from what you've heard that they will be sharing with the community to encourage people to vote for them, that you think that you should possibly elaborate more on?
To be fair, I've had very few opportunities where I've been around her. This week, while we've been standing out in the rain trying to get people to vote for us, has really been the longest period of time that Krista and I have been together. I do take from what I've heard her proxies and her advocates say when they've been out there as well, is there's a very big focus on safety. And the murder of Irina Zaruska and some of the calls by the FOP for the National Guard have been reposted and articulated by my opponent as being, potential good avenues for us as we look at public safety. I disagree vehemently with that. I think anyone in this room, you know that the National Guard is not a civilian police force. That is not appropriate. So I push back on that. I've also heard, her say that her experience set is greater than mine because she has served as a constituent coordinator. I can't remember the terminology, but effectively she's been married to somebody on city council and has fulfilled a lot of his softer touch responsibilities that are, I guess, not his true north. I take issue with that only because, I really do not think that, being a spouse and supporting that spouse is something, that's something that all of us do. I don't know that it's something that really prepares you well for office. I appreciate that she helps him with his job. But I will say the hard skills are really where I want to draw the distinctions. So I've been a real estate attorney for 30 years. I've due diligenced $1 billion in transactions. I've done M&A. I've done a number of the things that do touch on what City Council does. In addition, I've also had those soft roles in the community where I've served my HOA. I started a nonprofit for our local school because they needed to raise funds for a playground that was ADA compliant. I have, served Council for Children's Rights, representing kids facing expulsion from school. I've done all of those soft things that give you insights into the needs of the community. I've done all of that. I've been able to get a stop sign where one was needed in a neighborhood in South Park. I've done those things, but in addition to that, I've also honed my skills as an attorney. And so I would challenge that there is a clear incumbent. She hasn't so much as called herself an incumbent, but it's definitely been a sense that she's already going to hit the ground running because of her husband. And I challenge that. I don't find that persuasive.
Okay, Winston.
Good morning. So I wanted to ask you about being a representative. Well, if you were the representative of District 6, what would your magic wand ideal structure look like for the people who live, I believe, in Cedar Knoll, Savannah Woods, and there's one more Olympian property that is very nestled in a lot of wealth? How would you optimize their lived experience?
I think that we have been able over the last few years to widen the lens on what community means and how to incorporate more mixed income housing. So my intention would be to have more linkages between those communities and the communities that surround. We've got the loop that now goes around South Park. I've had people say, I want access to these greenway spaces. I want access to these amenities. I think you need to have more linkages between communities that do have mixed income housing, more linkages to the amenities of South Park. I think that lifts all of us up to have those sorts of spaces be shared spaces and not be spaces that are just uniquely designed for a particular 1 mile radius of South Park Mall. I think we can all benefit from that. I think we also need to look very closely at our workforce housing. There are so many people who work in District 6 who cannot afford to live in District 6. We need to be more thoughtful about what success looks like in terms of how we are incorporating community, be it our police officers or our teachers or folks, again, who serve very well that community and would benefit immensely from having more housing that was available to them. So my best answer is just to establish linkages and to not have these isolated corridors or pockets of folks who live in Libyan housing or any of the other opportunities that are going up there.
Robert Collins.
Good morning again. You said that you did vote for the highway road tax. Most people in this room, from what I've heard, don't agree with it. What reason could you give the people in this room to say that they should vote for it?
I'd like to rephrase the question a little bit. I'm not going to tell you how you should vote. I came in here knowing that I was walking into a room of people who did not vote for it or will not vote for it, and I knew that I did. The reason I did, and I was back and forth with it, I took a lot of my comfort ultimately from the Black Political Caucus, the forum that I attended here, where the Black Political Caucus went through their 6 reasons. Now I've been told since then that I was hoodwinked by those persuaded, I should not have been as persuaded as I was, but I got a lot of comfort out of it, but I was already inclined towards it because I'm trying to think with the mindset of what is good for District 6. And what is good for District 6 right now is for people to be able to retain jobs in District 6. And I talked to a really brilliant woman who owned a hotel in District 6. And she had a mid-level manager who was about to fire some employees who just were not consistently coming to work. They just could not get there on time. And instead of saying something to this manager, she said, you know, let's go on a field trip tomorrow. And she took her and the rest of the human resources folks on a tour of Charlotte by bus all day. And after that, they got back to the hotel and they're like, yeah, we're not firing anybody. They appreciated through that experience that they were putting their lived experience onto another person's body, and it wasn't fair because these folks had absolutely no control. A lot of folks, either if they've got a vehicle, you know, maybe it doesn't run or whatever, and they could not consistently arrive at work on time. And I love that example of leadership and of somebody taking a managerial moment and really showing somebody instead of just telling somebody what the constraints are. So I took from that and other businesses that I talked to who also similarly said, my people can't live here, but they need to be able to get to work. And so I thought, okay, well, this is good for 6, but is it good for the city? And then again, I did take some comfort from the Black Political Caucus. Probably the thing that was the most persuasive to me, and you can disabuse me if I was misled, but the education component. My kids all went to magnet school. And I said it before, you know, they had the great good fortune of having a mom and a dad with a car who could drive them to the shuttle stop so that they could get the opportunities to go into Randolph Middle School. And Randolph Middle School's IB program absolutely, unequivocally prepared them for success at Myers Park IB and then for college. And I don't know, I mean, they probably would have been fine at their local school, which was Carmel, but you know, I wanted them to have a broader experience. I wanted them to go someplace else. And a lot of kids don't have that opportunity. And so I did take some persuasion from the BPC that they felt as though this transit opportunity would enable more kids to access some of the programs, both during school and then after school programs, where they're not able to get to and fro. So that's how I made my decision, but it's one vote. I have no other responsibility right now other than if I am elected to serve with honor and purpose when we select these people. I did throw my hat in the ring for the Transit Authority because I am skeptical of how those dollars are going to be used. I hope to bring that healthy skepticism to my leadership if I'm not elected as a District 6 representative. I hope I'll be on the Transit Authority.
Okay, Winston.
So going back to the South Park area, it seems like such a microcosm of what Charlotte's going through with the growth. And given that you have been in District 6, I believe, since the 90s, with Montebello Crossing, and your experience with the houses going up beside you, where is that line between growth and optimization for your current residents? Like, what would you say to your MSDs and MSAs for the trajectory of South Park? Like, you can take advantage and leverage the boom, but you know the infrastructure will have its insecurities. Where do you stand of how I would like to live and how this city should grow?
It's a big question. My sense is that the infrastructure is
All right, we're breaking into the
possibly
forum
one-
again for a bit because we have a safety briefing out of Jamaica that we want to get to.